Hello and welcome back for episode 15 of our Let's Play series. Before we get started here, I want to do my typical in the interim, and the very first thing is I actually went and started to plot all our interstellar trajectories. So I'm just going to briefly show how I do that for the first one here, and then I'll just plot the rest on my own. But it's a really useful tip and tool to do this. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have your Kerbal open, and you want to look at your current day. So we're on year 1, day 85, and just scribble that down because you're going to need it, or remember it, whatever. And then what you want to do is Alt-Tab to this website, which I'll leave a link in the description. However, basically what you want to do here is you want to go to the departure date. That's where we're going to set our current date. So we're year 1, day 85, and we're going to go from Kerbal to Moho, just because it's the first in the list. And then you can set whether you want to do like ballistic shots, mid-course planes, optimals, whatever. I usually just leave it on ballistic, but I'm sure there's probably an argument for the other ones. But anyway, and then what you want to do is you want to click plot it. So what this is going to do is show you your absolute optimal window. So it's showing right here, right now, and it's saying we're going to leave on day 269. We're going to arrive on day 405, so it's 135 days flight time. These are all your ejection angles, blah, 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 and your total DV that it's going to take to actually get there. Now, that's just giving you your optimal. You do have room to play around with this. So you want to note that the time of flight on the days is on the side here, and your departure date is here. So if you wanted to do, for instance, if I was to click way down here, you can see we arrive on day 359 now instead of 405, and vice versa. If I click up here, it pushes it right into year 2. So your flight time is taking a lot longer as you go up and down on this thing. And then the departure date is the big one, this one on the bottom here, because I want to set these windows to the earliest possible time that we can leave. So yes, this is the most optimal window, but for instance, you can see there's dark blue over here as well. And there's even, it looks to be some 5200s. So what I can do is I can click here and go to these guys, and now you can see we actually depart on day 159, which is actually only like 40 days from now. So it's a lot more, you have a lot of freedom in this on playing around. So it's going to cost us a couple hundred extra DV. So our optimal is 5,000, but for 5,200 we can leave almost 100 days sooner, which I'm okay with spending a couple hundred extra DV just to shave off my departure time down by 100 days. So we're going to scribble these numbers down real quick. So we're leaving year 1, day 125. The time really doesn't matter, but we'll write it down anyway. And we're looking at 5,300 dB. So now what we're going to do is we're going to pop back over to Kerbal, and we're going to go to the alarm clock, and we're going to add, and we want to add a raw time, and we're going to set the time type to date. You don't want interval because that'll actually, you can set like an interval for distance, whatever, but anyway, so you set that, and we said we're going to leave on day 125 at 3 0 0. Not gonna let me put 2 zeros. All right, cool, whatever. And then what we want to do is we just want to name it. So we're gonna go Moho window, and what I usually do is put the amount of DV in brackets behind it, just so I remember what course I plotted and how much DV it's actually gonna take. And then we just hit add alarm. So now you can see we have a Moho window that is in 39 days, and it's going to cost us 5,300 dV. So that's a really good way that you can actually plot out your interstellar windows to the different planets. So I'm going to go ahead here and plot out the rest of the major planets, and at least that way we finally have some timers to possibly look at doing an interstellar mission. Right, so with that out of the way, I went back to the mission center, and there was 3 missions to rescue Kerbals, as well as a couple of missions just to take some science readings and stuff like that around Minmus, which if we're going to be sending a base there later, we can just do that. And the reason I grabbed the 3 rescue missions is if we're going to start doing interstellar, we're going to need some more Kerbals because we only have 4. Well, 6 because we've already done 2 rescues, but we're definitely going to need a lot more Kerbals. So this will get us some more, and as an extra challenge and a little bit of fun, I'm going to actually rescue all 3 in one mission. And we're going to use the claw again. However, the first 2 vessels I will just grab and set on a return trajectory and then get myself back into orbit and let them burn up. And then the third one we will actually grab and keep with us and bring all the way back down for return. So, without further ado, we should get to that mission and jump straight out to the launch pad because I already built the craft. Right, so this is our new and improved rescue craft, just a MK2 command pod and your typical bare bones necessities. You'll notice it's got a ridiculously big space stage, but we'll get to that later. And I timed out the launch again so that the craft was 400 kilometers this time away from me, and it actually worked out really well that we were real nice and close together when we got to orbit. So if you're looking for when to launch, I would wait until they're about 400 kilometers from you. Otherwise, there's nothing special. We just got up to orbit, dumped our launcher, and deployed our solar panels. And just by getting orbit, I already had a nice clean 0.2 encounter. So I didn't have to do anything at all, other than just wait for it to do an orbit, and then we could start approaching this guy. And I was a bit impatient and came in a little too fast. So I actually just got a little bit hairy here, and I almost lost a solar panel as he kind of went zinging past us. I had to quickly dodge, but I got corrected around and just went and grabbed him. And because we're just going to be throwing this vessel, it doesn't really matter where we grab him. However, it wouldn't let me EVA him, so I ended up having to use the transfer crew option, which I'm not sure how he actually climbed through that claw, but whatever, it worked. So then we just flipped ourselves around and put ourselves on a atmospheric entry orbit and ditched him so that he will go and burn up, and then we spun around and just got ourselves back up into orbit. And 1 Kerbal down and 1 craft destroyed. So now I set my target to the next guy who's also in low Kerbal orbit here, and this one's going to be a real pain in the butt. You'll notice I have a lot of DV still, and that's because the 3rd Kerbal we need to rescue is actually in high orbit at 9 million. It's like an 8 million by 10 million orbit. So I brought a lot of extra DV with me because I didn't know exactly how much I was going to need to rescue him, and I wanted to keep as much as possible to use for that part of the mission. So I decided to just use time for my advantage on this guy, and I just set a 10-kilometer difference in our orbits and just hit fast forward, and very quickly realized that doing the planetary warp here was not going to be anywhere near fast enough. It was going to take me way too long to close the gap between us. So I went back to the Space Center, I went to the tracking station, because there you're not limited on how fast you can warp. So we went into some super fast warp speed, and these guys just went around and around and around and around. I think it took like 4 days, but they finally closed the gap, and I was able to pop back over and just do a little bit of a maneuver, correction maneuver here to get a nice close intercept. So we burned that, and then we just did another orbit, and we were finally, I don't even know what the mission time is at this point, it's like 4 or 5 days. It was pretty excessive, but anyway. So we finally got our nice close intercept and brought it in, and again, this one we're just going to be throwing away, so I didn't really care where I grabbed him. So we had a nice clean grab, and I was conveniently already pointed retrograde, so we just rescued our Kerbal and went into an atmospheric orbit again, ditched him, spun ourselves around, and got ourselves back up to orbit. And now comes the tricky one, which, as I mentioned, is out at 8 million. So what I did is plotted a maneuver node, which you can see here, that's basically going to take our apoaps up to the same altitude that he's at. And I also just wiggled it around so that he would essentially be at the same spot as we were when we actually got up to the apoaps there. And then I plotted a plane correction en route that will flatten us out because we were out by like 2 degrees or something like that. So I just quickly plotted that and did that burn. And then we just needed to basically travel out there. And once I actually got out to the apoaps, you can see I plotted another maneuver node, which is going to basically circularize us and match his orbit. I mean, it's pretty much this is something new, but it's pretty much the same concepts as what we were doing back at Kerbal. You just need to kind of get into his orbit and then figure out whether you need to speed up or slow down. In this case here, you can see I actually came in front of him, so we were going to have to be doing a slowdown, which meant after I matched his orbit, we would just want to make our orbit a little bit bigger than his so that we kind of slow down. So you can see I matched his orbit and then started to plot our rendezvous, which is, I kind of wanted to force it so that we'd rendezvous nice and close here, but it was just a lot easier to actually do it on the other side. So it's going to take us 2 days to get out there, but it's not a big deal. So we looped all the way around and had our nice close intercept. Now this guy here I'm actually going to bring back with us, so I do want to make sure I try and grab him as straight as I can. And you can see here I have lights on the front of the craft, and it's creating a shadow to kind of aid me in staying straight when I actually approach him. And I hit him nice and straight, but I was slightly tilted, so we were a little bit off. But once we had him, we just transferred our Kerbal and hit the brakes until we had a nice atmospheric reentry. And fast forward a whole bunch, and came down for our reentry. So we ditch our engine stage here and let the fire take over. There were a few warnings that went off when I was coming through reentry, but nothing got too hot at all. They didn't even get red. So we had a nice clean reentry, which you can see us dropping out of here. And then because I didn't know what I was grabbing and what I was bringing back and how much weight it was going to be, I had basically my main parachutes, and which you can see here, and the craft flipped on me, so I had to kind of snap it back around. But then I had basically backup parachutes in case I wasn't going slow enough, and it turned out I actually needed all of them. So it took 8 parachutes to actually bring down all the weight that we had. But had a nice 5-meter-a-second hit and got 69% of our vessel back, and we now have 3 more Kerbals. Right, so with that out of the way, our next order of business was doing some janitorial work, because I went to the tracking station and we are showing a lot of debris, which you can see me clicking here. And it's not by any fault of mine. I've left all these stages in deorbit burns. However, this game for some reason just doesn't process air drag, like orbit re-entries, unless you're actually flying the vehicle. So we basically just need to pop out to all these stages and just run them so that they actually slam into the atmosphere and either burn up or slam into the ground or something. So we're going to do a bit of a montage of destruction. So the first stage was this guy, which actually took me a few orbits because he was on a really wonky orbit, but he eventually came down. And I just left it on fast forward to see if he would actually make it through re-entry, and it surprisingly did. So it gets a nice water grave as opposed to explode in the air. And then we went to this guy who I again left it on fast forward, and he was not so lucky and started to wobble like crazy and then just imploded. And then I went over to here, and I have no idea how it got here, but for some reason there's a docking port laying out in the middle of nowhere that survived some sort of re-entry, so we just recovered that and got the money for it. And then there's another booster here, which again I just left it on fast forward, and once again it did not fare so well and exploded. Kapow! So this guy here, I decided to not put it on fast forward to see, because all 3 of these were all the same stages. So I'm curious if it'll actually make it through re-entry if I don't have it on time on physics warp. And you can see it did. It was flopping around like a fish out of water for quite a while. And the warnings for that decoupler were going off like crazy. But the tanks and the engines and everything else seemed relatively okay. And surprisingly, it is actually going to get through the atmosphere here. And as a little added bonus, and part of the reason I left so much of this in here, is the sun started to come up. So we got to see a nice little sunrise as we watched our destruction. You can see me turning the camera there to catch it. So you can see it here. It's still bobbing around like crazy, but we're starting to come out of the thick stuff, and the heat's starting to slowly die off here. So it looks like these stages probably could have made it actually back through the atmosphere if you don't physics warp them, but that would have taken way too long, and I eventually just physics warped it because it was through the fire, and sploosh. So then we had literally the Kerbal we just rescued. His command pod was still floating around up there, so we went and grabbed that, and it came down no problem. And for the first time, we actually hit land, so we got a nice little explosion on that guy. And then this was the other Kerbal that we rescued. It's the plane cockpit or whatever, which also survived re-entry just fine and went plummeting through the clouds to its death. So now that everything's destroyed, I went back to the mission center and picked up some new missions. You can see there is a mission to put a space station in orbit around the Mun, which I'm grabbing here. And then there's also a mission to test the extra large landing gear while landed on Mun, and also a mission to rescue a Kerbal who's stuck on Mun. And the reason I'm picking all three of these up is because I figure I could probably do them all in one mission. So we're going to build a craft that'll actually count as the space station when we get there, and then we're going to land, grab the Kerbal, and come home with the whole thing. And because we've already chewed up half the episode up to this point, I figure this should be our live mission, and we are going to jump on out to the launch pad. I lied. We're going to stop in the VAB real quick here, just because I wanted to very, very briefly explain this. You'll notice this is going to be our Mun lander. And so, I mean, we have to test these absolutely, like, look at these. We have to test these landing gear while we're out there, and they're actually pretty heavy, so I put one on each side just to keep it balanced. Luckily, they compact down to almost nothing, so at least that's kind of nice. And obviously we're going to rescue the Kerbal who's landed there, so our crew, we're going to take Jeb and Bill, and we're bringing a couple newbies to try and get them experience, and then we're leaving one seat open for the one that we rescue. And why do I have 5? Well, that's because of that mission. You can see the build an orbital station, so it has to have a antenna, which we got up here. It has to have a docking port, we got here, and can generate power, we got solar panels. Must support at least 5 Kerbals, we got 3 and 2, so that's our 5. And has to have a scientist on board, which we have a noob scientist. And then just maintain stability for 10 seconds. So basically this new orbital station, when we get to Mun, this should check off, and then we'll be able to actually do our landing and rescue our Kerbal and then come home. And other than that, it's pretty typical setup. This is going to be gonna blast us to Mun, do our break, and start our descent, and then this guy will take over and do the landing. Mainly just because this lander was getting too tall to try and do it with all the fuel. I mean, I probably could have, but these things were getting in the way, so whatever. And you also notice there's a brain down here. When I did a test launch on this guy, it made it to orbit with a bunch of extra DV in this tank. So I figure, screw it, we'll still ditch these guys, but we'll go straight actually right up to orbit, and we'll ditch this stage, and I'll just bring it down and recover it at a later time. Otherwise, yeah, so it's kind of a funky looking rocket, but it's because we're trying to do this orbital station, this test, and rescue a Kerbal all at once. But it should be fun, so now we're going to head out to the launch pad. Cool beans, so we're out on the launch pad here, and ready for launch! And I don't really foresee anything amazing happening during this launch, so we're probably just going to fast forward through most of it. However, the sun, it is like 4 AM right now, so the sun is actually going to come up during launch, which might be kind of interesting, might make a nice view, so I might leave part of the launch in, but we're probably definitely going to be watching it on fast forward, because at this point launches are getting pretty monotonous and typical, and you should be able to do them by now. You just don't need to see me do them over and over again. Cool beans, we are up in orbit at a 72 by 71, and we have enough fuel to bring down our stage. Before I disengage it here, I'm just going to deploy its solar panels, because I don't want to come back to a dead stick. Cool, so our throttle's off. We should be able to just ditch him. And we'll just give this a little bit of a gas, just so that we kind of drift away from them here. And we should be ready for our mission. So we just need to go plot a trajectory. Now I want to go to focus view for a second here because yeah, that's what I was afraid of. I wanted to know where the Kerbal was, and lo and behold, he is at the pole. Which I'm actually really glad that I brought science experiments now. I literally threw them on there just thinking, well, I don't know, maybe I'll land somewhere new. And I would say we definitely are going to be, because that bugger is literally at the pole. So, not a lot changes other than when we launch to him, we want to come in on a polar orbit. However, I decided it'd be a lot easier to just burn our normal ballistic trajectory and then just do a correction a few minutes out once we already had our trajectory. So you can see me just finishing it out here, and then we will plot our correction burn, which I've already plotted, and you can see here we just pulled on our normal and anti-normal nodes until we were able to correct our trajectory to come in over the pole. So we fired our engines and got our new trajectory. Oh, that was a crazy burn. Well, I think we pretty much nailed it. We're only out by a K from what we aimed, so cool. We have our trajectory. So I think at this point, while they carry on with their mission, I'm going to switch back over to our probe guy here and bring it back down to KSP while they travel. Cool, so we are back at our guy here, which you can't see at all because it's nighttime, although it has power, so that's good. It's also got a boat ton more DV because it dumped the stage on top of it. So, where is KSP? There it is. KSC, sorry. One of these days I'll figure out how to do these burns properly. So we're going to go with 300. Just cuz, and we're gonna aim. Where are we gonna aim? Whatever. We'll try that. I may not hit right on KSC, but I should at least get it close to it. So, can this thing rotate? Yes, it can. Sweet. And actually, we're only 3 minutes out here. So we just performed our break, which I cut out here, and we're now on the beginning part of our descent. And I ran it on fast forward until the fire hit, and then realized our solar panels were still out. So we quickly sucked those back in and closed up shop so we wouldn't destroy anything. However, there's still a lot of prane involved here because we don't have a heat shield. We're just purely using that engine as our heat shield. And you'll notice right about here, things started to get really hairy. I started to lose control of it, and I really didn't want it to flip on me, so I had to fight like crazy to keep this thing straight. And I'll explain in a second why, but you can see it was a hell of a struggle, but we managed to keep it mostly straight. And now we'll cut back to the live audio. Wow, that was freaking crazy. I had to fight that thing like crazy. I totally forgot to turn these fins off, which was really stupid. Yeah, so I had to like fight it, but I managed to keep it from flipping over. But I was literally holding the thing just as far on the pitch as I could. And we need to slow down, because we are literally ballistically headed straight at KSC. Let's turn those back on. Why not? Slow down! Whee! Whoa, that thing is going. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, 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 hey. Oh my god, deploy the parachutes. This has been an awesome re-entry. Oh man. We only slowed down to 11 meters a second though. I think we're gonna blow up our engine. Man, I can't believe I put 6 parachutes on this thing thinking that would be enough. But apparently not. This is gonna hit hard. Although we got really close to KSC. So that's a bonus, right? That's something. That counts. Come on. How much impact can that engine take? I bet you it can't take 11 meters a second. Be hilarious if this thing just pancaked, just like kaboom, kaboom, kaboom. Just like the brain left. Oh. Yep, it blew up. And I just totally remembered that I had fuel. Shit, I could have fired the engine to slow us down. Why did I not think of that? Ah, that's crappy. Oh well, what's done is done. And we got 97.9% back. Woot! Except we didn't get that engine, which would have put that up to 30,000. So that sucks. And you can see here we had fuel. Oh well. Right, so with that guy safely back home, we've flipped back to our actual main part of the mission here, and carried on into the Mun SOI, and got a beautiful shot of the sun and Kerbal setting before we actually had to fire our engines, so that was pretty cool. But we did our brake burn, and popped into orbit. Cool beans, so we have arrived, and we are on a really wonky orbit, like 18 by 12, but whatever. Now, one thing that I am a little concerned about, this guy is like just barely in the light, so we might have to land by instrument, which is going to really suck because the poles are insanely hilly. However, we need to, yeah, I need to get over there first, so yeah, we're just going to warp over there. Okay, sweet, didn't crash this time. Yeah, so for some reason, when I tried to set the ship as a target, it crashes my game. I don't know why, but I'm able to set the Kerbal as a target, and it seems to work fine, so cool. However, before we get up to that guy, where is my antenna? Extend that. Because, where is that mission? Why is it, why is it not even showing up in here? That's interesting. Shit. Hold on a second here. I gotta go to the tracking station and check something. Or Space Center. Okay, so I have no idea why it came out of my thing, but in the archives here it shows build new orbital station on the Mun was completed. So we're good. Right, so back to the important business of landing. Now I have a lot of DV in this stage, so we're gonna do this one a bit. God, what do we have? 358. So we're gonna be ditching that guy really late. That's okay. So we're gonna set a. Which I could burn. Yeah, let's just burn a bunch of our speed off. And we're going to aim a little bit past him because we're going to want to obviously hit the brakes as we're coming down. And that gives us some room to brake. So after we finished our brake burn, we were coming in a bit crooked. You can see here, so I just burned the anti-normal or normal or whatever it was, just to straighten us out so that we'd be coming in directly overhead of the Kerbal. And then it was just a matter of waiting till we got down there, although I things don't go so well, so we'll cut back to live. Oh my god, we're coming down fast. Ditch that stage. Oh shit balls, we're gonna crash. Oh. Is the capsule gonna survive? No. So, attempt 1 fail. So that tells me I need to get rid of that engine a lot sooner. So we just repeated what we did before, did a break, burned our anti-normal to straighten ourselves, and now we'll cut back to the second attempt at landing. Large part of what screwed me up last time was I had that on target, and that was really stupid. I should not have had that on target. Looks like we got a pretty good... Oh my god, you're gonna pop those wheels out? Don't do that. Put those back in. I forgot that those would be hooked to landing gear. So our impact time is like 30 seconds. I need to start slowing the hell down so that we can get rid of this engine. It's like we're firing a missile at him as we come down. That's kind of funny. Shit. We need to burn this way, because we are coming up short. And we're still like 11 seconds off from impact. We still need to burn more speed. Oh my god. Okay, well he's pretty freaking close to us right now. You should be able to EVA that. Yeah. Because this hill looks a bit daunting. Oh, wow. Oh, crap. Oh, I just bounced really hard. Man, I do not like landing in the poles. Oh, don't do that. No, 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 no. You know what? Just, can you just go this way? We're gonna try... I should have some fuel to spare here, so we're gonna... Because whatever I'm trying to land on down there is not cool, and I really should have put some lights on this thing. Okay. It's like the messiest landing ever. So we're down, we have 60 meters left to go. We have a real nice slow speed. Come on, stay landed this time. We're gonna try and touch down really soft. What the hell is going on here? Okay, we're still 10 meters up. Okay. Are we down? Are we down? No, stay standing. No, don't tip over. No! Shit! Ah, you stupid thing. I do not like hills. Oh my god, we're wasting so much fuel. I might have to reload this. We're slowly getting closer to him though, that's something, right? Okay, just touch down soft. Touch down soft. Stay. Oh, okay. I think we got it. Oh my god, and we need 900 DV at least to get home. It might be okay. Cool. And we landed in the polar lowlands. That's interesting. So we then just collected all of our science. I had everything with me except for I didn't have goo and I didn't have a materials bay. I also didn't have an atmosphere sampler because there's no atmosphere. But so we did all that, and then I made a quick save. So we have a save while we're down on the surface here, and we'll go back to the mission. And then we also, before I forget, need to run the test on these guys so that we can check that thing off for 200 grand. Oh yeah. I don't know why they need to know how those landing gear are on this place, but whatever. Cool. So now we need to go over to our floating friend, or he looks floating from my angle. But apparently he's not. Interesting. And whatever you do, don't kick the craft, because that thing is not very stable right now. My god, I don't think I've ever actually tried landing in the poles before, and this place is a nightmare, especially at night. I kind of want to fast forward the clock just to see the terrain around here. Welcome! What's this dude's name? Oh, it's Chick, Leander. Well, Leander, time to plant a flag. And your rescue vessel has arrived! Leander, rescue. Cheers, mate! Cool. So you need to get in the lander can. Where is... Excellent! So we now have our rescued Kerbal. Holy crap, look at this place, man. This is insane. As much as I'd love to see what is actually out here, because man, look at that place. Like, this looks like it's a massively hilly area. I really want to see it. Why do you not let me see it? Whatevs. So, now, in order to get home, let's make sure we do this properly and not repeat last episode. And it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't completely screw it up again. So, we're going to kind of just skip some of this. Because what I did is I basically launched at Kerbal, which put me perpendicular to Mun's trajectory, which will make more sense in a bit, but basically don't do what I did. Don't do this. You can see how I'm launching like at Kerbal, and that's just not gonna end well, but before we get to that, I just wanted to cut back to live real quick here because this is pretty insane. Can we actually see? Holy Sokka, look at this place. Yeah. Well, that was interesting. And we have 368 DV. So let's hope and pray that is enough to get us home. And you really don't need to see me do this, but I just left a quick clip in here. You can see that no matter how much DV I used or which angle I launched at, we were not going to get our return trajectory. So we're going to cut to take 2. Okay, I did some cheating and read up on this. And yeah, I screwed myself. However, if we do Alt F9, cool. Okay, so apparently what you're supposed to do, what I should have learned a long time ago. So I launched that way. That's bad. What they're saying you should do is when you're looking down, I want to launch this way so that I'm in line with the path of Lun. So we're going to give that a shot. So instead of going north, we're going to go this way. Which is just a repeat of what we did last time, so we're just going to cut to me already up in orbit. Oh! Oh! Aha! Shocking. The tooltip was correct. 2 days. 1 day. Okay, that's just our return. Sweet. So we have our return. It's only going to cost us 278. Which we could actually do that plane correction, but whatever. We're going to hit the atmosphere, so I don't care. So I guess apparently that's what you want to do, is if you're on the pole, you want to launch so that you're in line with the path of Munt, as opposed to the exact opposite, which I did. Shit. This game's always learn something new in this game. But our burn was 11 minutes out, so I just cruised along for a while. And then we finally executed the burn, and voila! We're on our way home. Colbins! We have 80 Delta V left, and we are on our way home. Sweet. So, time for a lot of skippage, because this is just all travel now. And nothing really special happens, we're just going to do a bit of a montage. You can see we came flying at Kerbal, and then we retracted our solar panels and what was that, the Cometron? Retracted that, and then ditched our engine and hit the fire, which was pretty uneventful. It was there's a few heat warnings and stuff like that, which you can see, but everything was fine for the most part. There's no surprises or anything. So, and I actually checked the map real quick, and we were fairly close to KSC. We overshot it by quite a bit, but close enough that we're going to get a good recovery. And popped all our parachutes, and finally came down in the ocean. Cool! We have landed, and we still have everything attached. So, mission success! Minus one big cock-up, but at least we were able to fix it. So yeah, I just need to cover this guy. And you'll notice right off the bat, I got 433 science for that because I actually did a bunch of EVA reports and stuff like that while we were flying around. Thanks to, technically I got these last episode, but because I redid the mission, I actually lost them. But yeah, anyway, now we have them again. So we got poles, we got the polar lowlands, we got a crater. We got all our landing stuff, and then I also got Mun Polar Crater, which I didn't know was a thing, but that was another one. And then that's just all landed. So, we actually managed to haul 400 science, that's kind of nice. And we landed close enough that we get 90% of our craft back. And we have a new crew, who's a scientist, the Yanda. So that's fun. And I have no idea what to run. This might be a shorter episode, but I think I'm going to call it a wrap here and figure out what I'm going to do for next episode, because we're up to 5.2 million now, so that's kind of nice. So yeah, we're probably going to upgrade some buildings, probably spend some science, and we'll see what we can come up with. So until then, ta-ta.